she started walking at 7 months and started talking at 1 year old, saying big words to her brother, Fonzo Cherry. I also remember the first word she ever said was daddy. Alex was always a good and smart baby. She did not cry a lot, only at times when she needed to be changed. Alex was a joyful baby who enjoyed playing with her toys and playing with her brother and I. She would always call Fonzo So-So as a nickname. She loved to watch Barney, her favorite cartoon show. Alex was so quiet when she was watching her favorite show. I remember she would always play in my hair and have so much fun doing that. I remember always taking Alex to the park with her brother to go play. And everywhere we would go, she would go. She would say that she loved me. I would always take Alex to McDonald's with her brother, and she always wanted chicken nuggets and iced tea was her favorite. She really loved McDonald's. I remember our trips to Walt Disney World. So many times we would go. We had so much fun. I would take my daughter Alex, my son Fonzo, her cousin Peter, and Dana would all be there because Alex really wanted them to be there. Since I lost my daughter Alex, we never have fun anymore. She was the most fun in the family, especially her birthday parties. She would make me breakfast in bed and tell me to take the day off to have fun. Alex would do my hair for my birthday. We would have fun the whole day, but now I can't have that fun anymore. For 4 years, all I do is cry. My life has been changed forever. She always loved to go to school. She really loved school. And her dream was to be a nurse. And now that will never happen. Alex was a respectful girl. I miss her so much. I still love her, and Alex will always be my baby girl, even if she's not here. God bless, and God be with her.
That's all for this case.
The written statement has an ID.
Does, Your Honor.
Exhibit BB. Okay, thank you. Any cross-examination?
Your Honor, we have no questions of this witness.
Thank you. Ma'am, you may step down. Thank you very much. Call your next witness, please.
State calls Peter St. Fleur.
Okay. Sir, would you raise your right hand, please?
Do you solemnly swear affirm testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Please have a seat. Would you tell us your full name, spell your first name and your last name?
Peter St. Flair, and it's Peterstfleur.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Or how did you know Alexandria Cherry?
She was my cousin,
What was the age difference between yourself and Miss Cherry?
2 years
Were you older or younger?
older.
It's my understanding that you wrote a statement that describes Alex's uniqueness as an individual and the loss of the impact of her loss on you and the community. Is that right? Your Honor, may I approach the witness what's been marked as State's Exhibit BW?
You may.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Permission to have the witness read State's BW?
You may.
Peter St. Flair. Alexandria Valise Cherry. Her nickname was, we call her Valise. In Creole, a purse is valise, and you take your purse everywhere, and she would like to go everywhere we would go. So that was one of her nicknames that we used for her. Furthermore, Alexandria Valise Cherry, the girl who smiled through everything. No one knows but God that dealing with this has been more than tough. I mean, it's only been 3 years, 7 months, 14 days, 17 minutes, and 50 seconds, to be precise. This is difficult to even put into words, but I'm going to be strong enough to do it for her, as she was an angel, our angel. My first cousin, my dear friend, a person who I loved unconditionally, a person who believed in me when no one else would. Alex was a person I felt connected to. Just the fact that we were both born on the first day of the month, as in she's October 1st and I'm February 1st, and we always felt a sense of connection there. And coming up, people would think that her and I were brother and sister. Our childhood through our teen years was like no other. Alex and I grew up close, like a sister and brother would, with a lot of similarities. We would both bring a big smile wherever we went, and always carry a happy attitude. Growing up with Alex included great times and having fun together, like going to the beaches, theme parks, and having a blast at birthday parties. She was just so happy and fun to be around, and I really miss her a lot. I remember Alex excelled in a lot of things, such as academics. She had the best grades and always put full energy in her assignments. She made well put together projects. She was a fast learner. She would love to come up with fashion designs and ideas on clothing that she felt looked nice on people like others and myself. Going to school was something Alex took very seriously and loved. But her beauty was She didn't just care for herself, but she cared for others as well, including me. She believed I could do great things on the football field. I remember one day she said she wanted to wear one of my jerseys. I made the team, and I kept that as a reminder to never give up till I get that jersey for her. I remember a day where it was a rough patch for me while I was in high school. I was going through a lot, and I had a lot going on at home, as well with my mother, which was all my fault, looking back. So I got in a bit of an argument with my mother about some things I was doing, and my mom finally had enough of it and threatened to kick me out at the time. But this time, she was serious, and she went forward with that by taking my key, not letting me into the house. I couldn't get in at all. I was literally kicked out of my mom's house, begging and crying at the door to get in, and it really hit me that day. But thanks to my cousin Alex for having that talk with my mother about giving me another chance to be back in the house was crucial. Alex and my mom were very close in the sense they both loved to shop and buy fashionable things like purses, shoes, and accessories. Alex was also like my mother since she was there for me when needed her to be. So Alex having that talk with her ultimately convinced my mom to let me back in the house. I still don't know how she did it. I'm forever thankful for that, and to this day, I'm not sure why she did it, but it saved my life because that would have taken me in another direction, and certainly not the right one. I thank her for that, and I continue to thank her for that because she didn't have to do that for me. Speaking of thinking, I can't forget how I would always come to her about doing my hair. At a certain point in my life, I decided to grow my hair out, so I had this huge afro going on or whatever, and I didn't know what to do with it at the time, so I would bug Alex about doing it for me all the time and keeping it fresh, and she would always do it for me. There were times where she insisted on doing it herself. There were times where she would be sleepy from me coming over early in the morning, and she would still do it for me, not to mention me leaving late and she would still do it for me. Alex was just more helpful to me than anyone else. My sister Dana and I were more so opposite, but me and Alex were more similar. Me and Alex shared a memorable bond, just growing up together, having the same favorite dish, fried chicken and sweet plantains. And she loved those fresh chocolate chip Publix cookies that we both will go crazy for. And those Stacy cinnamon sugar chips that I will still get to this day because of her. Alex and I really smiled through it all together. Even when I was down, she would pick me up with a smile. Pictures don't do enough justice. I just remember she was so kind and always wanting to make someone else happy. It still doesn't feel right without her. Just like a big dream going on that will never end. It is just still shocking experiencing this type of tragedy. Alex's murder was the only tragedy that has ever happened in our family. My first and only funeral that I had ever been to. Being there for someone who I love and miss so much is heartbreaking, to say the least. Having Alex around, her smile just gave the whole family more of a spark and it hasn't been the same ever since. Now, our whole family is at a standstill. Our family is literally split, and no one ever talks to each other. And it's currently keeping us at a standstill. It simply shows that losing her has done so much damage to everyone who was close around her. Alex's cousin, my sister Dana, has dealt with a lot of demons ever since Alex's death. Dana struggles heavily to bringing herself back up mentally from the tragedy, including myself, and just questioning the whole thing, asking why her and why this and why that. It's just tough for everyone. I'm well aware everyone has had their share of problems. It's all there on the surface. You can sense it, and words can't even express it fully. So much to cope. And people are still in the grieving process, whether they show it or not. But I know there will come a day, just one day, where she's able to bring us back together like the good old times. I remember at Thanksgiving or Christmas gatherings, Alex would be the one to get us all rallied up and to be joyful that we were enjoying each other's company. Her jokes and games she would suggest us to play are second to none. But Alex won't be there anymore to add that glowingly memorable spark, the $1 million smile, and the everlasting joy. That's what hurts the most. Maybe she will in spirit, but not only as an angel as she truly is. Love yours, Peter St. Fleur.
John, no further questions.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
No, we haven't.
Thank you. Sir, you may step down. Thank you. Call your next witness.
Francesca Cadet.
Okay.
Your upon testimony she gives shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Please have a seat, ma'am. I'm going to ask you to lean into that microphone. That chair doesn't move.
Okay.
Would you tell us your full name and spell your first name and your last name for us?
My name is Francesca Cadet, Franches, CA, last name Cadet, CADET.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Ms. Cadet, you knew Alexandra Cherry, is that right?
Yes.
How old were you when you first met her?
I was 13 or 12.
And can you describe your relationship with her before her death?
We were best friends.
It's my understanding that you prepared a written statement that you would like to read to the jury, is that right?
Yes.
And may I approach the witness what's been marked as Space Exhibit BX and shown to counsel?
You may. Please proceed.
Nobody prepares you for losses like this. At a very young age, you're taught right from wrong and lessons that could last you a lifetime. What is the lesson here? You see it in movies and TV shows all the time, but nobody actually tells you how to handle death. How could they? It's not like there's a book you could read that gives you instructions on how to deal with something as traumatizing as losing someone close to you. It's rare to meet people who come in your life and changes you for the better. I met Alexandra Cherry in junior high when she was a new kid in the neighborhood, so all the attention was on her. I knew I wanted to be her friend, but I didn't know how to approach it. It wasn't until the day I was taking out the trash, her and Dana asked if I wanted some birthday cake for Dana's little brother, DeMarcus.
Ma'am, can you slow down just a little bit, please, if you would? Thank you.
DeMarcus, and it went from there. You know how you start interacting with someone and it seems like you've known them for a lifetime? That was definitely me with Alex. Though we were a group with other girls, me and Alex began to grow a bond separately. And before I knew it, she became my best friend. Summer of 2010, we spent almost every day with each other. She would come to my house or I would go to hers. If we were outside playing, we always made sure we left before the streetlights came on. McDonald's was just across the street from our home, and we would look for change in the couch just to get exactly $1.07 and split it right down the middle. Her voice seemed to be the first thing you remembered when you interacted with her. She had those high-pitched voices that will have you say "aw" when you first meet her, but after a while, you'll cringe when she emphasized on things like "oh my God." It was easy for everyone to tell me to be strong once they found out the news, but things are easier said than done. You don't know how you'll react in situations like this until you're actually face to face with losing a loved one. Throughout the years since her death, I've maintained this attitude. I'd rather speak on the woman she was becoming rather than the one everyone talks about after they read the article. I like to talk about the Alex with the beautiful smile, the outgoing personality. Then they don't ever talk about the girl who loves sweet tea, the girl who really thought ice cream is food, the girl who was so afraid of dogs but wanted one, the girl who made a joke out of anything. I think we laughed at everything just to get away from what was going on in the world. Nobody understands how close we were or how much this death affected me tremendously. I lost a part of me when I lost Alex, but I can say it shaped me into the woman I am today. I wouldn't wish pain like this on anybody. I missed out on my whole teenage years because this case ate me up for years. I cried on holidays, birthdays, and sometimes just randomly for 4 devastating years that felt like a lifetime, just to hear my sister can finally rest. I can finally be at peace and say this and actually mean it. I am truly thankful, Francesca Cadet.
Thank you. Any cross? Thank you. You may step down, ma'am. Thank you. Call your next witness.
State calls Fonzo Cherry.
Okay. Fonzo Cherry. Madam Clerk, you swear him in.
Do you solemnly swear upon testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Please have a seat, sir. Madam Interpreter, you need some water? You okay? Okay. Sir, would you tell us your full name, please, and spell your first name and your last name?
Fonzo Cherry, first name Fanzo, last name Cherry, Chery.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Cherry, you were Alexandria Cherry's older brother, is that right?
That's correct.
And have you prepared a written statement that demonstrates her uniqueness as an individual and the loss to the community as a result of her death?
Yes, sir.
Honor, may I approach the witness and what's been marked as State's Exhibit BY and shown to counsel?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed, sir.
By the grace of God, I had a sister who embodied love, joy, and youthfulness. She represented love by the way she spoke to fellow classmates and family. She was always the first one to give a smile to anyone. She was extremely friendly towards everyone she came across. She represented joy ever since she was a baby. She would walk and hug you for no reason. She would dance with no music. At 16, my sister's youthfulness still amazes me. I remember a time when she was 15 years old. She had a pimple on the side of her face. She ran towards me asking me how she can get rid of it before school started back up again. I told her, "You're ugly now." "But you'll be fine, you're growing up." She told me, "Shut up. I got an idea. I'm gonna go look on YouTube." So she YouTubed it. How do you get rid of a pimple fast? And noticed that someone was using toothpaste and decided to do the same thing. She knew it was part of growing up, but she did it anyways. The next morning, the pimple was gone, but she had a huge scar on her face. That was part of her being young and free. The death of my sister put me in a difficult and spiritual journey that has taught me many lessons. I will always hold the funny memories and crazy arguments we shared throughout her life. I can recall my first time holding her at Virginia Beach Hospital. She was light as a feather with red chubby cheeks. Eventually she was in the same high school with me. She taught me so much, from being a father figure to also being that big brother who would joke around with her. She taught me that in life you must only do things that make you smile. Even after losing my sister, she taught me to have a voice. The past 3 years and a half, I had to face the truth that my sister is dead. The day I found out she was dead was the same day we buried her. I was in a state of shock. I was confused as to why this had happened to my sister and depressed that she wouldn't be here with me anymore. I remember having a high fever the following day. To this day, I believe my body was at its breaking point. At the time of her death, I started to hate and question God on why he would let this happen to my little sister. The years following her death, I had to go through grief counseling to express and release the pain of waking up without my sister. I found I wasn't as focused as I was when she was alive. For example, after taking a month off of work at Polo Ralph Lauren due to her death, I came back thinking I was prepared to go back. However, my mind would drift off and I wouldn't pay attention to any customers. It affected me in school also. I wouldn't care for any assignments and would show up late. During the 28th day of each month, I would completely shut down and cry because my mind would replay the night when they found her body. Alex's death, however, taught me there is so much more to life. For example, living a full life by speaking and teaching others around the community that every second on earth matters. The death of my sister reconnected me with God in a deeper way. I have more love for people. I try to treat everyone as if it would be my last day on earth. Her death taught me to never take life for granted. I found myself reminiscing about her radiant smile. When I watched her best friends graduate from high school, knowing she would be right next to them if she was alive. Or when I would go shopping, my mind tends to relapse to when we would go shopping. There's not a day that goes by when I don't think of her or miss her. She was always happy and bright. There was never a dull moment with her. We were always on an adventure. Like back when I didn't have a car, we would walk to Ala Vista Park, where we would cross Old Winter Garden through an endless maze of trees and bushes, and find ourselves at the basketball court playing around and racing to the end of the pond. My sister was energetic, and my mother and I would always have a hard time keeping up with her. I vividly recall she finally starting her freshman year at Olympia High School. At the same time I started my senior year. She was doing the color guard and track. She never wanted to stay home. She was always on the move. She was a great multitasker. Alex would manage school and her large social life. She would have her friends like Gigi and Francesca at the house after school just to have fun and gossip. She had over 1,000 followers on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. I remember the time I had her join my YouTube channel for her birthday. She was a ball of energy, always excited to be in front of the camera. Thinking back on it, she was very popular coming in as a freshman in high school. Everyone wanted to be her friend. Alex was high-spirited. She attended after-school events such as football and basketball games, and she was always smiling. I had promised her once I got my car that I would take her to church with me. As soon as I got my first car, we started going to church faithfully. Alex would invite her cousin Dana to come with her, and we would sit in the front row, and Alex would be the loudest worshiper. From time to time, I would take her shopping at her favorite place, like where I work at Polo Ralph Lauren, Forever 21, and H&M. The life Alex lived was definitely a life full of love. When my sister was alive, she was called Valis. In Creole language, for translation, it means purse. She would go everywhere with my mom and aunt would go. My sister loved going out and about. When Alex died, the family fell apart. It was a whirlwind. Uncles and daughters stopped talking. Fathers and brothers got into heated conversation. I believe love.
Can we approach?
You may. Sir, you may continue.
The life Alex lived was definitely a life full of love. When my sister was alive, she was called Valis. In the Creole language for translation, it meant purse. She would go everywhere with my mom and aunt would go. My sister loved going out and about. When Alex died, the family fell apart. It was a whirlwind. Uncles and daughters stopped talking. Fathers and brothers got into heated conversation. I believe the love we had within the family died with my sister, Alex. Her friends took it hard as well. They always looked up to her. Her friends were more than just friends to each other. They grew up together from middle school to high school. I know if she were still alive, our family wouldn't be in a dysfunctional state. If Alex were alive, her friends would be making memories on their birthdays, graduation, and when going to college. Her joy and light would most definitely shape Orlando with dreams to becoming a doctor that would help females that couldn't have children. I know that nothing is going to be the same anymore because she always knew how to put a smile on everyone's face. Alex lived on her favorite saying, "I never had it all, but I have enough."
No further questions for the witness.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
I have a question.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. Call your next witness.
They called Damian Thomas.
Okay.
You want a way to approach forward?
You may.
Do you solemnly swear affirm testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay. Have a seat if you would, please. Sir, if you lean into that microphone, that's good. If you get close to it. Would you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your first name and your last name?
Name is Damian Thomas, D-A-M-I-A-N-T-H-O-M-A-S.
Thank you, sir. Please proceed.
Sir, what city do you currently live in?
Orlando,
And how old are you, Mr. Thomas?
19.
Was there a time when you went to Olympia High School?
Yes, sir.
And when you went to Olympia High School, did you know a person named Alexandria Cherry?
Yes, sir.
What was your relationship to Alexandria Cherry back during the school year of 2014 when you were a sophomore at Olympia High School?
Our relationship, we were together.
In boyfriend-girlfriend kind of way?
Boyfriend, girlfriend type way.
Do you know what grade Miss Cherry was in when you were a sophomore?
She was a freshman.
Where did you first meet Alexandria Cherry?
I first seen her in school, but I met her at the subway outside of school.
Did you become her boyfriend immediately, or did it take some time from when you first met her?
Nah, it took some time.
How often would you see her during your sophomore year in school?
Every day.
Did you see her outside of school?
Yes, sir.
Did you see her every day outside of school?
No, sir.
How many times a week would you see her outside of school?
I can't put a number on that.
Was it often?
We seen each other enough.
Did you send text messages to her?
Yes.
And would she send text messages to you?
Yes.
Did that happen every day?
Yes.
Did you ever meet Alex Cherry's brother, Fonzo Cherry?
Yes.
And did you ever see Fonzo Cherry interacting with Alex?
Yes.
Can you describe the relationship you observed between Fonzo Cherry and Alexandria Cherry?
They were very close.
Did you know any of her friends?
Yes.
And did those friends include Dana St. Fleur and Aaliyah Garrett?
Yes. And also Angelique.
Angelique. Did you ever see, with your own eyes, Miss Cherry interacting with her stepfather, Sanel St. Simon?
No, sir.
Without saying exactly what Miss Cherry said, did you know or do you know how Alexandria Cherry felt about Sanel St. Simon?
Yes, I knew how she felt about him.
How did she feel about him?
She wasn't too fond of him.
Now, did there come a time when you and Miss Cherry became close with one another emotionally?
Yes.
And was that emotional connection immediate, or did it develop over time?
It definitely developed over time.
So I'm going to try to use New Year's of your sophomore year as a point of reference. Were you closer to Alex before or after New Year's?
I was closer to her after New Year's.
Did Alex Cherry generally express her feelings freely with other people?
No.
At first, did she express her feelings with you easily?
No.
Was she eventually able to do that?
Yes.
Now, was there a time when Alex Cherry told you that someone had touched her in an inappropriate or sexual manner?
Yes.
Overruled.
Please repeat your answer.
Please repeat the question.
Yes, sir. Was there a time when Alex Cherry told you that someone had touched her in an inappropriate or sexual manner?
Yes.
Now, do you recall when that was? In other words, was it during the school year or during the summer?
Are you still using New Year's as a
Right.
time?
So before New Year's or after New Year's?
After New Year's.
Okay. Did she, without saying who it was yet, did she tell you who it was that touched her sexually?
Yes.
Who did she tell you it was?
Her stepfather.
Now, did you ever meet her stepfather, Sanel St. Simon?
I met him during the crime scene.
Okay, so you met him when Alex disappeared.
Yes. First time.
Do you remember what he looks like?
Yes.
Do you see the person you knew as Sanel St. Simon in the courtroom today?
Definitely.
Could you point to him and describe an article of his clothing?
He got on a blue shirt.
And suit jacket?
Yeah.
Could you point to him, please? Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
Record will so reflect.
What happened, or how was it that Alex Cherry ended up telling you this information?
One day she came off the bus early morning from school, and she was crying. She was with Angelique, She was crying. I didn't know what was going on. Asked her what was wrong. She couldn't tell me right. She wouldn't tell me right away what was wrong. I had to keep asking her what was wrong. And eventually she told me that she was being bothered.
Okay.
So
Now, when you say you had to ask her several times, did you ask her all those several times on the same day, or did it go over a period of days?
it went over a period of days, I believe. It took her a while to tell me actually what happened.
So she didn't just blurt it out to you?
No.
And you were just asking generally because she seemed upset, is
Yes.
that right? Okay. Did Alex Cherry eventually tell you how many times Sanel St. Simon had touched her inappropriately?
She told me, from what I recall, she told me that, yeah, she told me every time he touched her.
Okay. So,
It was numerous occasions, maybe about 4 times
all right.
that.
Now, after the first time that she told you that, would she tell you when it happened, or was it sometime after it happened?
It was different every occasion, honestly.
Okay, right. So were there times where she would tell you very close in time to when it had actually occurred?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Sorry.
Now, you said, or I used the words inappropriate touching. Did she specifically tell you where Sanel St. Simon touched her on her body?
Yes.
Now, was that via text message or face-to-face conversation, or both?
That was both.
Right. Where did she tell you Sanel St. Simon touched her?
Her vagina.
Did Alex Cherry ever describe to you whether or not she resisted his touching her?
Yes.
What did she say she did?
She said she had to fight him off.
Now, did you eventually make the decision to tell Alex Cherry's brother, Fonzo, about Sanel St. Simon touching her?
Yes.
Where was it that you told him? Like, where was the actual location where you told him about this?
We were outside my house
Right? And why was he at your house?
picking Alex up.
Right? Did you go out to his car?
Yes.
And is that where you delivered this information?
Yes.
No further questions for the witness, Judge.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
On the day that Alexandria disappeared, you went over to her house, am I correct?
Correct.
And at that point, you did not write a report for the police.
No.
And you, at that time, did not tell the police what you told Mr. Williams just a moment ago. You didn't tell him about this touching that day, correct?
I did bring it up.
You brought it up to a deputy, is what you're saying?
I brought it up to a deputy, yes.
That day?
Yes. In the
Okay, do
house.
you remember talking the next day to a Deputy Lee?
You said,
Yeah, do you remember
do
the
I
next day you
remember?
talked to a Deputy Lee at your house?
I remember talking to a few deputies. I don't remember.
Okay. Well, it was a deputy came over to your house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your mom was there, right?
Yes. Yes.
Your dad was there?
No.
Okay. Your grandfather?
My grandfather and my grandmother.
And do you remember telling the deputy that you talked to?
Proper impeachment.
Okay.
I don't know what counsel is referring to. If he could.
Page 12, line 2.
What?
His statement from July 29th.
Let him catch up with you here to make sure he has it. Do you have a copy of it, Mr. Williams?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, please, proceed.
Now, you just told us a moment, you told the deputy that day about this, right?
Told the deputy about what, sir?
You told the deputy on July 28th, the day that you went over, in fact, when Alexandria was first missing, you just told us that you told the deputy that day about the fact that Sanel St. Simon was touching on Alexandria, correct?
I never made a statement. I made a comment to him.
To the deputy was the question I asked you. Did you say anything to the deputy at that
I said
time?
something in the room while the deputy was in the room, able to hear both of us.
But you didn't say anything directly to him, right?
No.
Okay. So the next day, though, you did say something to them, right?
Did they come to my
The
house?
next day when they came to your house, you did say something to them, right?
I believe so.
Okay. And so as you're talking with them, you were telling them about your relationship with Alexandria, right?
Correct.
And you had told them that you had been boyfriend and girlfriend, right?
Correct.
But that had been broken off recently, correct?
Correct.
And that you were still physically engaged with her during that time period,
Correct.
and had actually physical engagement with her about 2 to 3 weeks before she disappeared, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, and that evening when you went over to the house, there was some concern that she might be pregnant, wasn't there?
Correct.
And there was some concern it might be your child, right?
Correct.
Okay, so the next day, the police talked to you, and then they came back on the 6th, right?
You're asking me if they came
Yeah,
back
they
on
came
the
back on
6th?
August 6th. Am I correct?
You have the documents in front of you, sir. I don't.
Would it help refresh your memory if you saw the reports?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I might have first, and I want to go to statements. They came and talked to you on August, did they not?
They did.
Now, you would agree with me that you weren't there for any of these events for the touching. That would, I mean, it sounds like a crazy question, but you weren't there for any of them, right?
I wasn't there.
Okay, so basically, you're relying on what she told you, right?
Yes.
And what she did was she told you in a text that she was being touched. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Okay, she didn't tell you face-to-face. She told you only through text, right?
She told me through text and face to face.
Well, didn't you indicate to the detective that you did not have a dialogue with,
I didn't have a dialogue.
didn't have a dialogue with Alexandria? That you didn't talk to her about it? Didn't you tell the deputies about that?
Oh no. I
On
told
August
deputies-
6th, didn't you say you did not have a dialogue or talk about it with Alexandria?
I definitely talked about it with her. That's how I brought it up to her brother.
Okay, well, let me go back to the text messages again. Now, when you text her through the phone, right?
Yes.
And when you text through the phone, you can't really tell what someone's emotion is at that time, right?
Correct.
You can't tell whether they're angry,
Correct.
you can't tell whether they're sad,
Sometimes.
but you can't, I mean, you're not hearing any crying
Not
or
hearing
tears,
anything.
right?
Right.
Not hearing laughter or anything?
Right.
You have no idea why she's sending it to you, supposedly, right?
Context clues is the only thing you can go by.
Well, there were times when you broke up, right?
Right.
Okay. And she wanted to keep up with your relationship, right?
Right.
Okay. So you don't know if she was using this to try to keep you with her, right?
Do I know?
You do not know whether or not, by looking at a simple text, that she was using this to try to keep you as her boyfriend. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Okay. May I just have a second, Your Honor?
You may.
Now, you didn't show the text message to the police, right?
Are you asking me if I
Yeah, you did not send.
I don't recall.
Okay, so you didn't show them text messages. You didn't give them your phone, right?
I don't recall.
Don't recall. Okay. Okay, do you remember back in January of 2016 where you came to my office to speak about in a deposition with a number of attorneys, right?
I came to your office?
Yeah, you came to my office and you met with me, met with the gentleman with the yellow tie back there, met with the woman here, and we all talked to you about what happened, right?
Okay.
Okay. And do you remember being asked?
Excuse me. When was this?
This was back in January 2016.
Okay.
Do you remember being asked whether police ever took your phone or did an examination of your phone?
No, I don't remember.
Would it refresh your memory if you reviewed it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to refer to deposition page 34, and that would be lines 10 and 11. And if I might approach the witness, Your Honor.
Sir, you can read that to yourself. You can read before it and after it if you need to put it into context. Just read it to yourself, look up when you're done. Are you finished reading it?
Yes.
Please proceed.
And do you remember when you were asked that question, what your answer was?
My answer was no.
Your answer was no, correct?
Right.
Now, you had never met the dad before, right?
You said I never
her
met
dad
the
before,
father?
right?
Never.
And you'd only seen him one time, am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when she told you all these things, you didn't tell a lot of people, right?
No.
Now, when you were in middle school, you went through a class that talked about things such as good touch and bad touch, right?
When I'm in middle school?
Yeah, when you were in middle school, right?
I remember those classes.
Pardon?
I remember that, yeah.
Okay. And they told you in events of sexual activity where it's unwanted that you should contact an adult, right?
Correct.
And you didn't, did you?
Did I?
Yeah. You did not well, let me go through the people you didn't contact. You didn't tell your mom about it, right?
No.
And your mom works for Morgan & Morgan, doesn't she?
No.
So she's a paralegal though, right?
Yeah, she
At one
was.
time she worked for Morgan & Morgan, didn't she?
She was a paralegal.
Okay.
At the time, she wasn't.
Pardon?
At the time, she was just becoming a paralegal, actually. She was a paralegal, but
Okay.
I didn't tell her because my mom barely knew about our relationship. Like, my mom doesn't know about any of my relationships.
Okay. Well, you went to high school, right?
Yes.
You didn't tell a teacher there, right?
Why would I tell a teacher about my relationship?
Well, that wasn't the question. You didn't tell anybody, right?
I didn't tell anybody anything.
Okay. We're not asking about your relationship. We're talking about the fact that you're saying your girlfriend is being sexually molested by her father.
Well, my girlfriend is saying she's being sexually molested by her father. I'm not saying anything.
Okay. You didn't tell, as a boyfriend who obviously cared for her very much, that any resource officers at the school.
She made it seem like it wasn't that serious.
Okay. You didn't tell the counselor at the school, any of the counselors, And when you talked to Fonzo, your response to him was, just watch out for that guy, right?
Some of that nature.
Okay.
Could have been. It was years ago.
And you didn't tell Fonzo about what happened, right?
Fonzo, to tell him about what happened about what?
You didn't tell Fonzo about what she was saying, right?
Fonzo knew before I did.
Okay. So you told Fonzo to watch out for him.
Pretty much react. Do something about it.
And you didn't volunteer any information, right?
Excuse me?
You didn't volunteer any information.
Did I give him any information?
Right.
Yes, I think I did on the last. I think I did on the last occasion that it had happened.
Okay. Let me go back. Do you remember the deposition that we talked about just a moment ago? Wait, just have a second, Your Honor.
Yes, you may.
Well, let me ask you this. Fonzo didn't ask you what are you talking about, right?
No.
That didn't ask you what you should be watching out for.
Excuse me?
Asked what you should be watching out for. Didn't ask any of that question.
No.
And again, going back to that deposition, if I might, page 19, line 3. I might approach the witness. Do you think it helps refresh your memory?
Hold on, just hold on.
Can I see what you're talking
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think it took you that long.
Mr. Love, you need to be able to show him the entire context.
Okay. I might approach the witness, and we'll start with 18.
Hey.
And start on line 19, and then go to the next page to line 3.
This is page 18 and 19, is that correct?
Sorry, page 18.
That's
Okay. All right, and you can read again before it and after it if you need to put it in context.
so what lines to read through?
Page 3 of 19. Okay. So when he's talking to him, you're talking to him.
Talking to who?
You recall saying that you told him to watch out for him, right?
Yes. You're saying I told Fonzo to watch out for.
Okay. And so he made a message just saying exactly what it was, right?
Excuse me?
You said that Fonzo gave kind of a gesture like he knew exactly what it was, right?
Yes.
But you didn't talk about specifics, right?
No.
And so you were guessing he knew what you quote unquote knew, right?
Yes.
And so at that point, when we talked about it a second ago, I asked, did you volunteer any information along those lines? What was your response? When I asked you, and you didn't volunteer any kind of information along those lines about sexual conduct, your response was what?
They know.
Okay. Now, and again, part of what, wasn't part of the reason you didn't say anything because she really never went into much detail about it?
Yeah, that was part of the reason. Another part of the reason is because she knew how I react.
Well, you had indicated, I guess, that if you thought she was being raped, that you would go ahead and you would have told somebody, right?
If I thought that she was being raped,
Right. You said you would have said something to somebody, right?
the love of my life being raped, talk,
If Alexandria was being raped, you would have had something to say about it, right?
I wouldn't have had anything to say about it. It would have been straight action. I didn't know at all.
Okay. Now, you remember in the deposition when we talked about that, and I'm going to refer to page 35, starting from line 16 and going through 21.
We approach her?
You may. Once again, you can read before or after it if you need to. He's ready?
Well, as part of why, when you were asked about why you wouldn't tell your parents, you had basically said that if it was a rape, you would have told somebody, right?
If it would have got to that point, yes.
Okay, so it wasn't an issue where you would have taken action. You said, if that would have been the case, I would have told somebody, right?
Yeah, she never made it seem like that was the case.
But the whole
Williams, do you
thing
need-
was
Excuse me just a
details.
second. Excuse me just a second. Do you need to publish the balance of that?
No, Judge, it's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Please proceed.
At this, the problem you had was the details never went that far, is what you told us, wasn't it?
Correct.
And so you didn't want to jump to conclusions, right?
Correct.
Because you had no way of knowing one way or the other whether this actually happened, correct?
Correct.
So that's why you didn't tell.
Correct.
Now, if you had an opportunity to read any of writing of Alexandria, or at least observe her writing,
Excuse me?
have you ever had a written note from Alexandria or anything along that line?
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor, is he coming to show me that?
Yes. If you need,
Is that a...
just wait until we get to that, okay?
I might approach the witness, Your Honor. And what I'm going to be showing him is what's been marked as identification and attack.
X.
That you just take a look at it, don't read it out loud. Take a look at it. Okay. Do you recognize the writing?
Yes.
Whose writing is that?
Alex.
Would you say during the times right up before her death that she still was very much taken with you?
Yes, very much in love with me.
Okay. But you had broken up by that point, right?
We were broken up by that point.
And that was because you weren't ready for a serious relationship, right?
Correct. I also was talking to somebody.
Pardon?
I also was talking to somebody else.
Oh, talking, when you say talking, you were in a relationship with somebody
I
else?
wasn't in a relationship with somebody else. I was speaking to somebody else.
Okay. I might just have just one more second, Your Honor. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Redirect.
Mr. Thomas, you were asked about the occasions where Alex Cherry told you about being touched sexually by her stepfather via text message. Remember him asking you about that?
Yes.
And you acknowledge that it's difficult to understand a person's emotions via text message, right?
Yes.
But she, Alex Cherry, told you about this in person too, correct?
Yes.
Now, I believe you testified that the reason you started asking the question is because you saw she was upset.
Yes.
Can you describe her demeanor on that first day when you started asking about this touching? What, you say she was upset. What did you see? How was she acting?
Tears, like she didn't want to tell me. I'm the type of person that'll react like
Non-responsive?
So, hold on one second. I'll clarify, Judge.
Please.
For now, just tell us what you observed she was acting like. So you said she was crying?
I seen crying.
Okay. When she disclosed this to you in person on other occasions, because there were 4,
Right.
what was her demeanor like?
All the same.
And what do you mean by the same?
The same, like she was just tired of being harassed, bothered.
Okay. So was she emotional when she told you about this?
Yes.
Now, you started to say that you were the type of person. Do you know why? Do you know if Alex Cherry wanted you to tell anyone in this information?
Objection, speculation.
I don't think she wanted to tell me.
Hold on, wait for the objection.
He can testify his perception, not what he
Actually-
thought, what his perception of that was.
Go ahead, sir.
Actually, I think from what I remember, she didn't want me to tell anybody.
Now, earlier you said that you would take action.
I would take action. If I knew that it got to that far, I would take action.
Now, you were 16 years old when this was going on, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And Alex Cherry was 16 years old as well, is that correct?
I think she's a month or 2 older than me.
Okay.
A few months older than me.
Now, you differentiated for defense counsel between a 16-year-old being raped and a 16-year-old being touched on the vagina, correct?
Right.
Those are 2 different things to you,
Completely different things
right? To you,
to me.
right? As a 16-year-old.
Yes. Touching, I would consider being
No,
harassed.
you don't have to go any further, Mr. Thomas. I understand that you saw them as different things.
Okay.
Now, you earlier testified, I believe, that you knew Dana St. Fleur was a friend of Alex's, right?
Dana?
Yes.
Cousin.
Cousin, I'm sorry. But she was also a friend she hung out with.
Yeah, definitely a best friend, but a
Right.
cousin.
And Aaliyah Garrett, did you know Aaliyah Garrett?
Yes.
And you knew her to be a friend of Alex Cherry's, right?
Yes. I knew all the friends.
And I believe you told Mr. Lara that you never said anything to them about...
Objection, background evidence.
I'm sorry?
Background evidence, never applied about that.
Roach,
I can rephrase the question.
rephrase it, please.
I believe you told Mr. Lara that you never told anyone about this other than Fonzo, correct?
Correct.
Right. So you didn't tell Dana or Aaliyah about this touching, did you?
Never.
Did you ever discuss the topic with them at all?
Never. I believe they knew before
No.
I did.
Not what you believe. Did you ever discuss the topic with them?
Never.
Without saying what they said, did they ever discuss the topic with you?
Objection.
Yes.
Cross.
Overruled.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you told someone about this touching prior to Alex Cherry going missing, correct?
Yes.
And who was that person that you told?
Fonzo.
Right. I'm waiting. I don't know if there was an objection.
You already answered.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Okay.
Right. So it's not as if you made this statement to someone only after she disappeared, correct?
Yes. Correct.
And then you told detectives the day after she disappeared, right?
Right.
And then you told them again on August 6th, is that correct?
Right.
And then you came and you gave a deposition to the defense where you said the same thing, right?
Right.
And now you're testifying here today.
And I'm here again today.
Okay. No further questions, Sean.
May this witness be excused?
He is excused and released by the state.
Would ask me to remain. That's calling.
Okay. Sir, if you would wait outside, please, but you are excused from the courtroom. Please wait outside. Mr. Williams, call your next witness.
State calls Fonzo Cherry.
Okay. Cherry, have a seat, please. You were previously sworn. You're still under oath. Tell us your name once again, please, sir.
Fonzo Cherry.
Okay. Please proceed.
And before I proceed with questioning, I would ask the court to admit State's Exhibit CA as the next numbered exhibit pursuant to 90.2 of each subsection 6, and ask the court to take judicial notice of the document.
Any objection? All right, it'll be admitted.
CA number 70.
Sir, please remind us of your name, age, and relationship to Alexandria Cherry.
Fonzo Cherry, 23, and I'm Alexander Cherry's brother, older brother.
How old were you when your sister was murdered, Mr. Cherry?
How old I was?
Yes, sir.
I was 19.
Now, I'd like to take a minute to go back over the role Sanel St. Simon played in your life. Approximately how old were you when he came into your life?
7, 8.
7 or 8 years old? Is that a yes?
Yes.
And so how old was your sister?
5, 4.
And Sanel St. Simon lived under the same roof that you did for approximately 11 years until Alex was murdered in August of 2014. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, did Sanel St. Simon provide for your family financially?
Yes, sir.
And that included when you were a small child, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, was he present on holidays?
Yes, sir.
Would he go to birthday parties and things of that nature,
Yes, sir.
including those of Alex?
Yes, sir.
Would he help out with household activities like cooking and cleaning and things of that nature?
Yes, sir.
Did he help keep the house neat?
Yes, sir.
When you and Alex were small, would he care for or watch over you while your mother was working or otherwise out of the house?
Yes, sir.
And did he have the authority to discipline you when you were small children?
Yes, sir.
Did he encourage you to do well in school?
Yes, sir.
And you and Alex Cherry called him father or dad, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm going to shift for a moment to talk about a time about 3 months before your sister was murdered in the late spring or early summer of 2014. Do you remember that time frame?
Yes, sir.
Now, did your sister have a boyfriend at that time?
Yes, sir.
Do you know his name?
Damian Thomas.
Now, while your sister and Damien were dating, did you occasionally speak with him?
Yes, sir.
In other words, did you know who he was to your sister?
Yes, sir.
Was there an occasion about 3 months before your sister's death where you learned that someone had inappropriate sexual contact with your sister?
Yes, sir.
Without repeating what he told you, who was it that gave you that information first?
Damian Thomas.
Now, where were you when Damien gave you this information?
In front of his house.
And what were you doing at his house?
Picking up my sister.
Did you go up to the door, or did the conversation occur somewhere else?
Near my car.
Now, did you eventually ask your sister, Alex Cherry, about what Damien had told you?
Yes, she was very uncomfortable speaking to me about it.
In other words, is it fair to say she didn't want to tell you about it?
That is correct.
Or she didn't want to talk to you about it?
That is correct also.
Did you take any actions after you obtained or were given that information by Damian Thomas in regards to Sanel St. Simon?
Yes, sir.
What did you do?
We decided to actually not allow him to be alone with her in the house.
Now, how did you go about trying to ensure that your sister and Sanel St. Simon were not alone together?
We would take her to my aunt's house if my mom was working or if I was at work or school.
After you started to prevent the two of them being alone, did Sanel St. Simon ever mention to you or comment to you about that fact?
No, sir.
In other words, did he ever comment about his inability to see her after you tried to separate them?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what statements, if any, or how he reacted to that situation, he being the defendant?
Frustrated, upset, angry. He felt like he wasn't a part of the family.
Now, while you were taking steps to keep the two of them separate, was Alex Cherry, your sister, also gaining an independence from the defendant?
Yes.
In what ways?
She started working with my mom.
Okay, did that give her money?
Yes, sir.
And what did that mean as far as her need for money from the defendant?
It's cut, so she didn't really have to ask for it.
Now, again, did you notice Sanel St. Simon have any reaction to Alex's independence?
No, sir.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross?
And you're saying that Sanel was upset because he didn't feel like he was part of the family anymore?
Correct.
Okay. And now you were talking with Damien, right? Well, when you got this information about supposedly something Mr. St. Simon was doing, right?
Correct.
And he told you that you need to watch out for that guy, right?
Correct. Handle
Okay.
that.
Okay. Now, you had no idea about this beforehand, absolutely, correct? Okay. And in fact, when you didn't even get around to unwanted touching, right? You didn't talk to him about it.
Correct.
And in fact, the touching, you didn't know if it was just unwanted touching, whether it was sexual in nature, correct?
Correct.
Okay, it could have been just like maybe he just would bump her and,
Incorrect. She wouldn't tell me that.
okay. But from Damien, you didn't have anything, right?
Correct.
And from her, you had nothing, right?
To her,
Yeah, from her,
we spoke about it in my car.
in your car.
Correct.
And you didn't call the police?
No, sir.
Okay, you didn't tell your mom?
We just told her that we couldn't let him in the house with her together.
I'm sorry, you're saying that your sister, who's supposedly being sexually abused by Sanel St. Simon, you did not tell your mom to get him out of the house, right?
She didn't say she was sexually abused, but she said that something inappropriately happened to her.
So unwanted touching, right?
Correct.
And you didn't know whether it was sexual in nature, right?
Correct.
No further questions.
Thank you. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down, sir. About 11:15. Do you have a short witness you wish to call, or a witness whose testimony will be brief?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Break for lunch at this point?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 11:15. We're going to go ahead and recess for lunch. I know it's been a while. I'm going to remind you, leave your pads on your chairs. Do not discuss the case amongst yourselves. We're going to see you back at 1:30 if you would. I have a little bit of work I need to do during the lunch hour. Do not discuss it with anybody else. Remember, if you see the parties, the attorneys, or the witnesses outside at a lunch place or outside the courthouse, they are not to have contact with you, so don't hold that against them. There is some press interest in this case, as you are aware, or may be aware. You're wearing juror badges, most of you are. If somebody contacts you about this or approaches you about it, just tell them that you're on a jury. Don't tell them which one, and tell them I can't talk to you about any case. And if they persist or continue to bother you, find a deputy and let the deputy know about it, if you would, please. We will see you all back at 1:30. Leave your pads on your chairs, please.
Jury accident?
I need some help on a couple of matters. Mr. Lahr, were you able to get the disc for me and the page sections that I need to look at?
No, I had to pay attention to it.
Okay, I need you to try and get those to me if you would. We've got an hour and a half during the lunch hour.
I think I may have it down, but I just wanted to make sure that's what.
Okay, that's fine. I can wait a few minutes. Mr. Williams, I needed to ask you something. I know you took some telephone statements from some people initially. The person we're talking about is Miriam St. Simon. Was she one of the first few ones that you took?
No, Miss St. Simon, Miss Miriam St. Simon was the last witness we spoke to. We spoke to her on Tuesday, April 10th of 2018. We did make attempts to speak to her prior to that, but she would never, or she either would not or was unable to answer her phone when we called previously. She is one of the witnesses that the defense team made sure went somewhere on the final week so we could actually speak to her.
Okay. And was she in Port-au-Prince?
I believe so, but I don't.
You don't know?
The
Okay.
answer to that. For
All right, thank you. So she was not one of the first couple of ones that you talked
No,
to?
you're
All right, thank you. I do need to know from you with regard to Dr. McLean, what it is that you want me to look for in camera. If you can jot something down, show it to the defense, and then, or just email it to me if you want. I've been through it, but I'll take a look at it again at lunchtime.
Yes, Your Honor.
What other testimony or evidence do you have that you'll be putting on after lunch?
I don't believe we have any more. I just didn't want to rest because I wanted to make sure I had everything in evidence.
And that's fine. All right.
But it's my anticipation that we will rest as soon as the jury comes in and things can start.
And Ms. Hyde, are you going to be ready to go? And I know you have the one I need to rule on, but other than that one, are you going to be ready to go on some of these?
Yes, sir. I have a corrections officer from Orange County Jail, Mr. McKenzie, just in candor that I was going to call.
Okay.
But he's the only other witness aside from the perpetuations that I have for today.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
His testimony won't be particularly long. It's just skipper evidence, as anyone would imagine.
Okay.
So I wouldn't intend to have us resting particularly early, but
I don't think the jury will object to that. Okay. All right, let me try and get some work done lunch hour. If Mr. Lahr can get me that information and the disc, I will look at it, and I'll go from there. We'll be in recess until 1:30. I do. Let me just talk to the backup.
You're aware that he's been convicted of murders, haven't you? One hand cooked in, one young man.